So can everybody hear?
I can hear. This is
I
Jim.
can hear you.
Jim, so can, Darlene, can you tell who's in a waiting room?
Yeah, hold on one sec. I can. Garrett,
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Okay. Tom, is that you on the other? You're muted though, whoever's. So there is somebody else on the phone. I don't know if it's Judd or.
0526 is Judd.
Okay, so he's here too.
Yep.
But he's muted.
All right, there you are, Judd. So Tom, we still need.
Darlene, can you check and see if Judd is muted by you? He's saying it says he's muted for the whole meeting. Should I text him back and tell him that was our plan the whole time?
Star six. Can you star six?
Hit star, yeah, hard star 6. Here's Tom.
Hey, there's Judd. Can you guys see me all right?
Beautiful.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, it seems like everybody's in.
All right.
Thank you, Darlene. I can see everyone now. Not in the dark.
Hey, Garrett.
How are you doing, Eric?
Good. Okay, is everybody here? I think we are.
Everybody's in. We haven't heard Tom or Judd yet.
I see Tom.
I'm here.
Yeah,
Can you?
Okay, great.
and I see Judd. Okay, so are we ready to get going?
I think so.
We got
Yep.
some time. We got some time to make up here. We got a 20-minute late start. So let's jump right in. The public comment. Is there anybody, Darlene Holden?
No, there's not.
Okay. We need to take action on the minutes from the last meeting,
I move approval.
and then can I have a second? All right. Judd, can you hear? Are you there? I see you're signed on.
Not muted, so he should be able to.
He can hear us, but it says he's unmuted, but we can't hear him.
Now mine says he's muted again.
Can you,
Could you
Judd,
tell-
can you hit star 6? Yeah. Judd?
I don't even see Judd as a participant.
I see him there, or I see an icon with his name under it. I don't know. I assume that's him.
Yeah,
It looks like he's an attendee and not a panelist.
Yeah, but he should still be able to, because he's on the phone, so I can't. He's unmuted, so I don't know why he can't.
The other option is I can call him and he can talk through my computer from the phone.
It looks like he's coming through again.
Jim, you're still there, right? You can hear us?
Yep.
Okay.
James, maybe if you would do that and just see if we can circumvent this.
All right, give me 1 sec.
Darlene, I vaguely remember a while ago.
I think he's here now.
I think he is too.
Judd,
Guys,
can you hear him?
Judd?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
Hey,
All right. Here we
all
go.
right, so we're all here. So Judd, we have a motion to accept the minutes from the last meeting. Do you want to second that?
Yes, I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, so that carries. Chairman's report is something that will not be on the agenda moving forward. And there's nothing specific right now, so we'll go on to the financial operating report.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I think if, I heard you right, Eric, last time we are going to, and I talked with James about how you want us to present the financials and operating report going forward. So we're going to really condense this thing high level, unless you all have any specific questions that we can address for you. So if that's okay, I'll proceed that way. That's what we're prepared to do anyways.
Yeah, I think that's the best way forward.
Okay, so from an actual versus budget comparison, our P&L for the month is the fund balance is favorable to budget by a pretty big margin, and it's really on the expense side. The revenue, is basically where we projected and budgeted. But
Are you going to share something or?
Oh, I can, I guess. Let me. All right, let me get to the right one. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Yep.
So just let me real quick, when you say you're talking about like a profit and loss statement, and so I think it's great to start at that level, and so we could see overall where we are, and then once you get into the actual versus budget, I guess at that point, that's where a lot of questions might come in, right?
Yeah, so right now, do you see kind of the summary income statement here?
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is, so from a high level, yeah, you can see that for the month, even though we do have a loss, we're favorable to budget by a big margin because we had projected a larger loss. And it's not uncommon around this time period, because December is usually a 3-pay period month. We have other, projects. We have snow going on too. But this month we were favorable, really, not on the expense side. We were, pretty much close to budget, but on the expense side, it was really in large part to snow removal, because we really didn't have any snow to speak of, or very little. And then if you move to the year to date, we are also favorable to budget, but that's not on the expense side. We were pretty much okay on the expense side from an operating standpoint, but it was really on the revenue side where parking revenue was just so much better than we had budgeted at the time. And that was, a lot from transient and meter revenue.
So,
And
Stati, could I just ask you, where it says current month there, I know that it's through December 2021.
Yep.
Would you mind just adding the dates what current month means, since we're not on the calendar year?
current month, December, and then.
Well, but is it really December? Because we're
Yes.
not on it. Is this a calendar year we're looking at, or our?
Yeah, so this is a fiscal year, because your fiscal year is July through June. So the current month is December. The year to date is 6 months through December of 2021.
Okay,
So
would you mind just adding?
Maybe what
those?
we can do is we can clarify up here. We'll say for the 6 months ending, then Ruth can adjust it going forward
Yeah,
for the 6 months ending.
So Eric, Stafi and I have been talking about kind of reformatting how we present this. So we've got some ideas and some things that we want to do, and I think what we'll do maybe at some point is sit down with you as well, you guys, and get some input on exactly what you guys want to see, so we can tailor this and streamline it exactly the way you want to.
Okay, all right, awesome. All right, sorry, I didn't mean to.
Okay.
No, it's okay. I mean, if there's things that we need to clarify to make it easier, because you're not seeing these all the time, then we can do that by adding some content here. So year to date through, December. So
Okay.
yeah, so that's 6 months, July through December.
Okay.
So as we were saying, that year to date, it's really on the revenue side, where we have seen that favorability compared to budget. Now and I don't have a slide for this. It's something that we've been doing kind of on the side, doing a pre-COVID comparison, because it's basically 2 fiscal years ago that we were doing these. But we could put this again when we sit down and talk with James. We can, if we need to do a separate kind of custom report for this, we can. But basically, the pre-COVID comparison through December, our revenues are off about almost 14%. Expenses are favorable because we've had elimination of some and deferral of some expenses and projects. And as a result, the fund balance compared to pre-COVID is off about 33%. Now on the transient activity side, which is baked into these numbers, the demands are off about a little over 11% compared to pre-COVID, and that is mainly coming from the rail stations, South Norwalk. We spoke to DOT, and what they're reporting is that, before Omicron hit, ridership was at 46% pre-COVID level. So we were, making a recovery. It was slow, albeit, but it was on the commuter side. But now, in the middle, hopefully the end of Omicron, ridership has plummeted back down to 25 to 30% of pre-COVID levels. So that we are seeing, you can see it by just walking through the garage. And they also did say that 82% of their trains are running. Obviously, they're not all full. So that's kind of like the DOT report. So one of the things, again, what James and I were talking about, and what he's going to have that conversation with you on is, how do we, after we get through this report, how do we, instead of being reactive, be a little proactive and talk about what we're going to be doing going forward? So that'll be more on the projects that we're doing. So a few of them that we are working on now are repainting the eastbound station. So we're going to be meeting with contractors near the mid to end of February, working with Sherwin-Williams to coordinate the specs, and they will coordinate the job and make sure the specs are met in terms of, mils of thickness on different surfaces and things like that.
Is that
And,
because it's a historic structure? Why do they need to, why are we going that route?
because they basically, they do it for free, and they want to sell their paint. And so I've used them before on another garage project. It's I think it's good because the specs are better than any of us would know, because we're not in the painting business. So they write it and help administer it, and monitor the job. And
Okay, so there's no historic obligation or any,
oh, no. I just think
Okay.
we want to do it right. I mean, because this isn't a small project.
right?
So the other thing we're working on is, and we had a walkthrough with Jim and James on this too, and this was relocating the vending machines and trying to make the station a little more friendlier, and setting up these machines in more designated areas on both sides, so it looks a little more organized, and that way some of the ticket machines from the platforms they can bring inside too. So we're gonna have to do a little work inside the station, inside the eastbound side, and well, both sides actually, to create an area for that. So we'll have some contractors out to look at that as well, and we'll have more to report on that, probably next month. And in that same vein, we're also looking to do some improvements to the eastbound, the East Norwalk station. There's been some requests by DOT and customers to see if we can figure out a way to open up the station so people can stay out of the elements and can use the bathrooms and all that. The problem is that we're not gonna be able to do that right away or before the end of the winter, because it was run and staffed as a staffed concession facility. So it now kind of needs a redesign. There's some demo that needs to be done, and there's some sinks and countertops and other fixtures that just need to be removed, because if we're going to allow anybody in there, we have to make sure they can't cause any vandalism. We got to secure some, electronics that are in there, maybe build another closet for the modem, the computer equipment, camera stuff, and make that into I don't know, maybe more of an inviting place. Wouldn't be a staffed concession stand, but we'd get some maybe, higher end, if you want to call them that, vending machines. So people can get some use out of it.
All right, so that sounds like a project. So I don't know how that enters into our plans, but is that a commitment that's been made to any of these people?
No,
we
this is just,
haven't made any commitments yet. This is just based on some requests that we had from some citizens that went to DOT. They forwarded to us about just standing out in the cold and wondering if we could open up the building. We went and took a tour of the building just to kind of see what options we had. So absolutely, positively, there's been no movement on anything. We're just mulling around some ideas of what we can do for the building. Was it possible to open for the people during the cold? And so we're just trying to kind of figure that out. When it comes to a large project or actually doing anything in that building, at this point, we're anywhere near those conversations.
yeah. We may need somebody to redesign, architect, or who knows, but and then in that same vein too, we're also looking at new door entry systems for the bathrooms in South Norwalk too, as well as East Norwalk when that comes on, and those would be something along the lines of a programmable standalone, like keyless access. So it'd be keypad, so we can automatically lock and unlock it at scheduled times. And then one thing too, just to jump back, something I forgot to mention in our walkthrough today at South Norwalk, there were some items that the fire marshal had wanted done, and there's some in the basement. We cleared that out, and there's some sheetrock that needs to be installed there, and we're trying to find a contractor for that. Anything else I missed, James, on that?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. Laz did a great job with going through the bucket list that we gave them for the South Norwalk Railroad. Just a big, cleanup effort, really get it looking nice, especially, with Omicron showing up. Cleanliness obviously goes a long way. We did some cleaning of the basement, which, again, they did a fantastic job. It looks a world of difference down there. It's clean. You can walk around. A lot of the stuff was from the NAFTA lease that she did not need anymore. So we were able to purge a lot of that stuff. So the train station's coming along quite nicely. So I want to give credit where credit's due. They did a good job the last couple of weeks here, pounding that stuff out.
Okay, all right, awesome.
Thank you. Yep. I didn't realize I didn't have my camera on, but so if there's any questions, fire away. And hopefully this is kind of what you were looking for, Eric.
It is for me. If anybody wants to drive down, in any greater detail, we could certainly do that.
So Steffi, do we have a forecast for revenue for the year? We have a space for it, but we don't have anything in it.
Yeah, we need to put that in. And yeah, sorry, that's my mistake. So usually, and just so you know, too, typically, unless we really have some great ideas, those first few months of the year, unless there's some huge variances we're already seeing, like say on the parking revenue side, it would be very close to budget, just because we don't have a lot of other information happening. There's projects that we're just kind of waiting until that last quarter of the year when we can see what our fund balance is. So I'll make sure we get that in there going forward. I don't know how we drop
even if it's nothing but the actuals year to date with the budgeted numbers for the rest of the month, unless we start seeing something like a decrease in ridership that creates a decrease in usage, and we could bring that up forward. But at least then we should kind of have a rough idea of where we are, right?
Right. Yeah. Noted. So
Okay.
that is it.
All right, great. Thanks, Kathy. So then the engineering report, I think Vanessa is.
So Vanessa was not able to join us this evening.
Okay.
She has a budget presentation that she's not able to switch around. So,
Okay.
but we do have a couple of quick updates, and those updates are there are no updates.
Okay.
It's winter time. Most things have shut down for the season until things start to warm up. So there's from the engineering side with the Webster lot and the repairs that we're doing at South Norwalk Railroad are both on hold until it warms up.
Okay.
I actually have a little bit that I can add because I heard just before I left the office, James, we didn't even get a chance to talk about it.
Okay,
So the contractor will be at Sono tomorrow to measure the windows that we are allocating for replacement under this contract. So they're on, the sub is on board and they'll be out tomorrow to begin to measure the windows so that they can get them fabricated. So move forward to new windows in the station. And then
That's great.
and I think the only other thing is like on Webster lot, we looked at budget of where we are. We were able to get a little bit more of the median of the center island new curbing, so it matches what we're putting on the edge. That will be done, and it will be the last thing that we do until we wait for the asphalt plants to open. The asphalt plants will typically open in mid-April. I like to give it a couple of weeks for them to get their mix right before we actually take their product. So we probably will be looking at more of a May timeframe for paving the lot.
Okay, great. Thank you. So then new business. So James, you.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was working on doing some analysis at the per space level, just to see which spaces were viable, and if they weren't as viable as we wanted them to be, what are our better options, you know, comparing what it would forecast out to be if it was a single space, what would it forecast out to be if it was a multi-space, and what it would forecast out to be if it was pay by cell only. So I did that for all of our on-street locations. And we had these locations that are listed in the agenda showed up as lower use areas that do not bring in enough revenue to offset the cost of operating that space. I did not take into account cost of enforcement or original purchase of the physical product, whether it be single space or multi-space. But even when I remove those variables in the expenditure, these areas did not come up as profitable. Give me a second and I will share my screen with you guys. All right, can you guys see the graph?
Yep.
Yes.
Fantastic. So and bear with me with the colors because I'm colorblind, but the bars that I believe are in blue, those are the 2021 calendar year totals for those specific streets. As you can see, none of them were viable through the course of 2021. So whether we put single space or multi-space, either way per space, we will lose money per month. So my recommendation is if we were to assume we make the exact same amount of revenue in these spaces and we go to pay by cell only, the orange bars, I think, are that is what we would forecast to bring in as revenue for 2022 in each section.
So, so blue is below, just James, just below the line is blue. So, so if you add all that up, that's
$5,957.76.
Yeah, so that's what it costs us to operate the way we are right now.
Yes, that is what we lost.
Oh, so
by
this is
having-
lost revenue. That's not cost of operation.
That is we lost $5,957.76 operating these spaces the way we do.
Because it costs us that much to operate them, or is it just
Correct.
lost revenue? Okay, so so those spaces, whether people park there or not, that's what those spaces are costing us.
Yeah, so that does take into account revenue. So that is our bottom line at the end of the year for those spaces. That takes into account revenue and it crosses it with the expense. And we are spending more money to operate those spaces than we are receiving.
Okay,
Yeah, so it's revenue minus expenses, leave us with a negative fund balance.
okay.
And you're proposing, because these streets all have multi-space kiosks, right?
No, they are not all multi-space. I believe Berkeley is single space.
Even the
Okay.
single space, each single space parking meter, we have to pay a monthly fee for a connection, right?
Yeah, okay.
So that's what creates the problem, either in a multi-space environment or in a single space environment.
I see. Okay, so, and what you're saying is if we remove the physical meters, whether multi or single, we're going to reduce our operating costs on these streets.
That's
correct?
correct.
No, I don't take it as we're reducing our operating costs. I take it as we're stopping the loss of revenue. I mean, I mean, for something that cost us $3,200, it's not that's not an operational thing. That's just a simple loss.
No, our revenue is what we take in parking fees, and our operational costs are the costs to operate the meters and things like that. Am I correct?
Yeah, Judd is correct in this instance. That is the operating cost, that takes into account the operating cost per month to operate those machines on that block.
Okay, all right.
So
And-
by removing that operating cost, that overhead, and going
Yes.
to pay by sell only, it will allow us to actually come out on the positive.
Yeah, so I think what James is saying is the change will lead us to, in this case, if rather than losing $6,000 a month, we can make $4,500 a month
This is per month?
per month.
This is per month, correct?
Wow.
Because we're not going to be paying the connection fees for each single space or the multi-space. Is that?
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. So this takes into account any parts and repairs that we've had to do on the machines. This is really, really in depth. It goes pretty close down to the penny about what our operating costs are in that area per space. So when you combine everything per space in that area, this is what you get. And obviously the overhead for pay by sell is non-existent. And part of the issue is also usage. You know, if there was more usage, then we would obviously be in the positive, hopefully.
Right.
But because these areas are so quiet right now, that my recommendation is to go to move these to pay by sell only, as we've done in a few other places in the city. That way we remove the overhead, we still provide the service to the customer. It still allows us to enforce, and it helps us recoup our losses.
And what's going to be the cost of physically removing the meters and storing them, and where do they go and all that stuff?
So it's still built in, because the only cost is just labor. We don't need to purchase anything. We have everything that we need. So it would just be, the maintenance guys taking the time to go out and do it. So
And-
there wouldn't be any extra cost. It would just be the hourly rate that we normally pay our employees during the day.
And are any of these units hardwired in, or they're all solar powered?
They are all solar powered with cell phone device connectivity.
Okay, so they're really just bolted to the street. You could put them almost anywhere then, so to speak, right?
Yes.
I see. Okay. So we'd have pay by cell plus text to pay also.
Correct. And part of the reason, some of these have historically been very, very low performing areas. But it's an area where pay to park is important. Berkeley, especially, the reason why we have meters there is specifically because of complaints that we had from the citizens that live in the area, that people were just parking there and leaving their cars for long periods of time. There was never any parking. So this was actually and this is information I got from Laz, because obviously I wasn't here, but these were turned into spaces specifically due to requests for on-street paid parking, to make sure that there was turnover and spaces available for people to use.
Yeah, I think in many
so that's
of these
why I don't want to. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jim.
No, I was just going to reiterate. I think in many of these instances, this is, really what we're seeing is a change in the economic development dynamic of the city, where we're looking at retail and residential. In these residential buildings, it comes with, it's not bundled parking, so the residents have to pay for parking. If we offer free parking on the street, where they're just going to bypass the parking and then move their car to the street, then we don't have the necessary spaces that add to the retail environment that we is paused in some degree at some time, but that we want to make sure that we invite. So I think James, really kudos to James, who's really worked hard leading this effort. Worked with Laz. We really looked at going beyond the simple cost of what do we pay for the meter each month, but really looking at what is the age of the meter, how much are we spending in parts on these meters. I think anything that we would all do when we own a car, right? And our aging car sometimes costs more money than it would be if we just bought a new car, right? And in this case, James is suggesting we give up our car, we use Uber. But, you know, I think, you know, I think it keeps the city vibrant. I think it helps us manage better our parking supply. And I think, you know, James will continue to do this on every meter to make sure that, you know, and identify to the board areas where, you know, it just costs us more money to do the business the way that we've been doing it. And I think, you know, the definition of insanity is to keep on doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, right? And this is really, here, we've done this and we're losing money, right? And the reality is we have other meters that are making more money, right? But we have some that are taking away from that and losing it. And we could turn this negative into a positive. I think it's good job.
One concern I have when there's no physical meters on the street is, you know, user confusion. And I would be interested to see that if we go ahead with this, whether ticketing on these streets actually went up or not, because some people just would either be clueless.
Yes. So I think that's definitely something to track. And one thing I always recommend, and I'll work with this with Laz, anytime you're making any sort of changes to the way parking is managed in that area, it's always a good idea to do a what's the word I'm looking for?
A transition period.
Yeah, transition period where we give we don't give real citations. Man,
Warning tickets. Warning tickets.
Yes.
Courtesy
Good
period.
Lord.
Courtesy
Yeah.
citations.
Yeah, so some courtesy citations, and obviously signage is a big part of that as well, right? We have to make sure that we sign the area properly. Even if we do some temporary signs, so we oversign the area for the first few weeks, just to make sure we get the word across, along with the warning citations. And then once we start to see the number of warning citations, you know, decrease after a week or two, then we can roll into normal enforcement operations. And then we just make sure we monitor it to make sure that we don't have any issues moving forward. Because, you know, we don't want to cite people just because we made a change. You know, that's not fair to them. We want to make sure we communicate with them as much as possible.
You might consider giving a warning letter or something to folks a week or two before the change as well, to clue them in so they don't start getting tickets right off the bat, you know?
Absolutely. That's absolutely an option. That's a very good idea. You know, we can put it on our nice letterhead and kind of hand it out in the area. We can put it on, you know, like the windshield of a few cars that are there, some things like that. You know, we have options to help try and get the word out.
Especially if they're tenants that are parking there over and over and over again.
Right.
It'd be nice. Yeah, good PR.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we don't want to do this just to and end up, you know, making everybody angry in the area. This is to make things smoother and easier for everybody.
Yeah, I agree.
Is there, should we be considering any kind of convenience factor for older people such as myself who don't want to use pay by cell? I don't have the app, especially after last year, you know, there was a breach, I understand. And, you know,
So
you all heard my rant against single pay stations. I like individual meters. Now you're taking everything away. Forcing me into the modern world. You know, it's and I know, you know, listen, we have to cover our costs, but every business has loss leaders. And is this, you know, again, I'm just asking questions here. And particularly, I see Burnell here is losing, you know, $1,185 a year.
No, it's per month.
Is this per month, James?
Yeah.
yes.
Per month.
Yeah, if you add all this up, it's about $72,000.
Oh, okay. Okay. I see. All right. Okay. Well, I guess if we go ahead with this, I'd like to track the ticketing very closely on these streets, just to see.
Yeah, absolutely. That's certainly all part of the plan. You know, anytime you make changes like this, you have to make sure that you're monitoring all of the data, no matter what it is, just to see how those changes have taken effect. You know, whether it's expense, whether it's revenue, whether it's citations, usage. We have to make sure we look at all of that.
Mhm.
Because, we can do our due diligence and try and make the best decision possible, but you never know the ramifications of that until you make the changes. And then maybe we reevaluate after that if we see any issues there. But I think this is the best course of action at this point to help keep these areas viable and keep us moving in the right direction.
Okay,
So this is something we need to vote on. And just based on what everybody said so far, before we ask for a vote, James, does it, with a vote, let's say we vote and it's approved, can we also ask at the same time that the timing be laid out of a grace period and public notification built into that? Just rather, because if we simply approve it, then without I guess it's sort of like an implementation plan.
You would simply just, whoever's gonna do the
Absolutely.
motion would just, I prepared a motion with a condition of X, right? And
Okay.
then you can say we want a week's notification and we want, flyers to be delivered, on vehicles, for the week prior to it. So
Okay.
whatever you want, you just put it as your condition. And
Okay.
you're-
So if there's unless there's more to discuss, let's entertain a vote. So is there a motion?
Let me ask one question. When would you anticipate doing this? How far in advance or how far in the future are we talking about?
So the removal process is quite simple. It probably takes 45 minutes to an hour to take down a multi-space. Single space is easy to take out. Obviously, we have to figure out what we want to do with the pipes. But this is something that we could work with Laz on and get started, weather permitting fairly quickly once we
Yeah.
finish the outreach and things like that.
The reason I ask is if you're not going to be doing anything for another month or maybe longer because of the winter, maybe you guys can come up with a draft motion that's really well thought out instead of us kind of shooting from the hip right now,
So if I can, Tom, I think it's a great point. I think, the reality is, we're bleeding now. And I think we should be responsible. I think that, what we can do is we could take a week together to put together the packet, right? So to create a flyer, to do it. And so I think that what we could do is entertain a motion to approve with the condition of the parking authority or LAS will issue a notification to parkers for 1 week prior to the date that they'll be taken out, right? So that way, if it snows, we can take weather into account. We can push it off if we can't get it out, but we'll put anything in for a week, and then we will issue courtesy tickets for a week to 2 weeks, whatever you guys want, right? I think we should be reasonable, but like 1 to 2 weeks is probably more than needed. And then of course we will monitor as we always monitor. But I think just if you tie it to a week before we're able to take out the meters, then it gives LAS an opportunity to make sure that weather permits that we take these out, the staffing permits that we have the manpower to take these out, and that we're doing everything to a week in plan. Because cold weather, we may get 19 inches of snow on Saturday, or we might get 6, right? So
Right.
Or
So basically there's a notice period, a switchover period, and a grace period.
correct.
So
Right.
the switchover sounds pretty quick.
Yep.
So it's just a question of how much notice period do we want to give? if it's aggressive noticing, then it seems like a week is enough, meaning that, a flyer gets put on windshields that says, in a week, this will be a different a different pay method. And then the switchover happens in what, a day, James?
Staffy, I'll let you chime in. The multi-space can probably come down in the day. The single space definitely can come down in the day, but probably not the pipes. So
Yeah,
there
not the
there
pipes.
will be some pipes there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I mean, I think we'll just have to take a quick inventory of how many of each device is on each street. I guess one question for clarification. I mean, we don't necessarily have to have all the equipment removed before the program's in place, unless that's what you want.
No, I think you do. It'll be
I'd wa-
confusing if you.
Okay, so if that's the thing,
Yeah.
then we just have to figure out what we're going to do in the meantime, because when the devices are taken offline or removed, there's not going to be any way to pay on the street. So are we just going to allow free parking with no enforcement, or
No.
they're going to be 2-hour limits? So
No, we'll do Park Mobile is what the
Yeah.
street will be signed for Park Mobile, right? As Park Mobile is a payment option today, right? And then, so I think the issue here is I just don't want to conflate it. It doesn't need to be more difficult. Like we're only going to do like, so this might be, we do Belden in 1 week, or so we do Belden, so we might do Berkeley and Belden in 1 week, right? And then we might do Bernal and Madison in week 2, and we might do Mott in week 3, right? So because all we really need to do is make sure that we do the entire street at the same day.
Yeah.
And then
Right.
whatever day that schedule is, you go back a week with the notification, and we'll already have Park Mobile as a payment option. So when you pull them
Right.
off, they're there, and we're doing the grace period. So it doesn't make a difference, because we're going to give you a grace period that's going to have a ticket that says you normally would get a ticket. The street has been changed to Park Mobile. Here's how you get the app, right? In the future, please pay by Park Mobile. Thank you. Love the parking authority.
Okay, so, all right, so then,
Belden, over by the post office, there's a dry cleaners and a convenience store. There's a bunch of 30-minute free parking spaces over there, but would it make sense to go talk to the store owners ahead of time about this?
I don't think so. I think that this doesn't affect how people do business at all, in my opinion.
Well,
I
would disagree
agree
you.
with Judd. I think we could have one of the flyers, Judd, and we could certainly drop the flyers off to the businesses as well, so that they know the changes, right? We should, if we're changing things in somebody's area, we should definitely let them know, so we can make sure that we just stop in there.
Yeah, Belden's the only one that's got any retail, so.
Yep. So we can certainly stop it. We should.
Okay, and then I have one other comment coming from the Bike Walk Commission. Like at Belden, well, Belden's a pay station. What streets have single space?
I believe Berkeley has single space.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mott?
No, Mott is multi-space.
Mott's
If you give me
multi-
just 1
multi-space.
second, I'll be able to pull it up.
Garrett, you remember?
The
You're on
reason I'm
mute.
bringing that up is when we took the single space off Washington, we missed a great opportunity to put a couple of bike parking stanchions. I can't tell you who it is, but I've seen it's kind of a loop that clamps on an old parking post. And I know right in the middle of Washington Street right now, there's a couple of bikes always chained up to some parking signs or something. And if maybe Tanner and I could take a look at the single space streets and see if it makes any sense to leave a post or two for bike parking.
Well, Judd, did you see the new rack? Did you see the new rack that we're intending for?
Yes, I know those are multi-state space parking, but I'm thinking of single space. It might make sense, but like I say, over on most of these streets, there's no retail, and people aren't going to be parking bikes often.
Yep.
So, but if before you pull out all the posts, if the Bike Walk Commission could take a look at that.
Sure.
Berkeley and Madison are the 2 single space.
Oh, that's it. Berkeley,
Yeah.
and they don't have any retail or anything on them, right?
No, Berkeley
no.
doesn't.
Berkeley is residential and
Berkeley's
um,
about 6 spaces.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I forget it.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it does. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. In my mind, on Washington Street, it made sense, but
But I
okay.
also think Washington Street's a really important street for us, and we need to make sure it has, like, I think Stono will be great, and I think other single space ones that we'll add, the street should be a showcase, and I think that, we need to make it that. So your point is well heard. We can't be a bike friendly city if we don't have someplace to park your bike, right?
Right. Yep.
Okay, so then I guess we should take a vote. Is there, if there's no further discussion? So if there's a motion to accept?
Are you making a motion to,
No, I'm asking for a motion.
Tom,
Yes?
you're the motion
I'll
guy.
take a stab at it. I move that the streets listed in item 6 on the agenda have the current meters removed and transition to pay by cell or text to pay or whatever that one's called, with a phase-in period after the change with courtesy tickets and a warning period up front alerting people to the change of a week in either side, either direction.
Okay, I'll second that.
And so all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, James. That's all very, very good information.
yeah,
It's
no problem. There's certainly more to come.
Yeah.
$71,493.12 a year.
Yeah, it
Good
adds
job.
up.
Good chunk of change.
And just so you guys know, moving forward, my standard operating procedure, whenever any parking changes are made in an area, this is the standard operating procedure. It's notification ahead of time, it's community outreach, and then it's a courtesy citation program on the back end after the changes are made. I think that should just be standard operating procedure across the board anytime we make changes.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I'm going to monitor things whenever we do that.
That's great. That's awesome. Thank you.
I agree with all of that. I would just maybe make a suggestion that in the future, you guys have a proposed motion, so you don't have some butchered motion and accepted.
Fair enough. Absolutely, Tom.
Okay, all right, terrific. The next is the update on the budget.
Yes, so I just want to let you guys know that Staffy and I have started on the budget for next fiscal year. We are a little behind because we did bring in the auditor, so we've been working with them a lot. So it put us behind schedule a little bit, but we do intend to have the budget ready for the February NPA meeting. So just want to let you guys know that it hasn't been forgotten about, and we are hitting it full speed as we speak.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And James, we forgot too that we used to do those budget workshops. And if that's something we want to do, let us know.
Okay.
Then the outsourcing of lease agreements and concessions.
Yes, so we have I just wanted to have a quick discussion on the leases for our tenant spaces in the railroads. As I've gone through the contracts and the leases specifically, there have been they're just, it's not what we do, right? We're not the experts in going market rates. We're not the experts in getting tenants in and having an understanding of who, you know, who would fit, what kind of business would fit well in these areas. It's certainly not our expertise. You know, we have some leases coming up shortly here, and we don't have any, we have room for more concessions, especially in East Norwalk, if we can, railroad, if we can find something that's viable. So one of the things I was reaching out and looking at was the outsourcing of our leases, and specifically outsourcing the filling of those tenant spaces.
So does that actually mean a realtor or an attorney?
So it's actually, it's a company that specializes in commercial leasing. And what they do is it's their job to go out and find the proper tenant for the space based on where the space is located, the you know, the foot traffic, what kind of space it is, how much room is in there, what kind of amenities are in there. And then they have the resources and the knowledge base in the area to say, hey, you know what I think would go well here. We actually have a couple companies that might be interested in using that space. They reach out to them. They can negotiate the market rate, obviously with all of our approval. And then that also allows us to have a standard for all leasing and all tenant spaces going forward. It provides consistency. I think it provides protection for all parties. And the lease agreement and all of that is still finalized with the city general counsel. So it's not like they have final say for anything. Basically, they just say, here's what I think the market rate is for this space. Here's a few tenants that we have found. Are you interested? And then we move forward with that process.
So is this something we need to vote on, or is it?
No, I wanted to bring it up to see how you guys felt, if you thought it was a good idea. You know, we've seen so many different inaccuracies in some of our leases and different rates for square footage, and it's just, you know, it's just not what we do. We're not experts in commercial real estate, and I want to make sure that we are doing what's right for us as an entity, and also for our tenants. So I think it might be a good idea to kind of at least explore this path to see what we can kind of come up with.
Yeah, this was more to kind of like keep you guys up to speed about what we're looking for. We'll come back with you. It's, you know, we found one person. We're going to look for some other firms to make sure that we're looking to be the right competitive. But, you know, this isn't our wheelhouse, right? And we shouldn't pretend it is. And we should take where we are right now and recognize the fact that, you know, maybe we should be putting, you know, the real estate management into the hands of real estate professionals, right? They could help, you know, solicit, you know, firms as spaces become available, and we can make sure that the rents that we're putting forth are, you know, supported by a market analysis that we are just not capable of performing, right? So
Yeah,
I think it's our path forward.
Yeah, it all makes sense to me.
So historically, city staff and Laz have kind of cobbled this stuff together. Is that
Yes.
my understanding?
Yep.
I
Right.
see. Okay.
You know,
Sounds
and
like-
quite honestly, this is very similar to the operation I did in New Haven with the New Haven Parking Authority, right? We had retail spaces in our garages. And, you know, this, again, it wasn't in our wheelhouse. So we just outsourced it to a local property manager who was then responsible for doing market analysis, who was responsible for the space, who really understood the correct lease negotiations that you're in there, that has the power and ability to get maybe name brands in there, right? That aren't going to be swayed by James or Laz, not putting a flyer on someone saying, hey, do you want to open up your business in the South Norwalk rail station?
Right. Okay.
So it's more to come, but just wanted to make sure that our approach with you is just keeping you informed of the steps that we're doing. I don't want, we're looking at the path, and the last thing I would want to do is have someone approach you saying, hey, I heard you guys are looking at a property manager, and then you guys are like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Certainly.
All right. Well, that's good.
So more to come on that.
Okay. Then under old business, there's the fashion school lease update, James.
Yep. So that lease is finalized, fully negotiated, and signed by the tenant. So the only thing left is to get your wonderful John Hancock, Eric, on the lease, and then and that will be good to go. We'll go in the file, and she's all set.
Okay.
So she's very happy with it. I think we're happy with it as well. I know I am. I think the rent's very fair. And as a favor, when I was looking for the leasing companies, I did ask them if the market rate that we put on that lease was fair, and they were very happy with the rate that we put. So I think it's a win for all parties, and kind of locks her in. And so now she's comfortable with what we're doing moving forward.
Okay. All right.
And
Good.
we adjusted her lease to the appropriate spaces that we can allocate to her, which,
Yes.
So we've corrected a number of things in the lease. So the correction at the rate where James ran through it with an outside consultant, and we're at the right space. So we believe that we're putting forth a correct contract for you this time to sign.
Okay, great. Thank you. The bathroom lease at the transit, Nora Transit.
Same thing. That was the Norwalk Transit has signed it. It's good to go. Looks great for us as well. I just need to have your signature, so we'll sit down and get those signed at some point with you, and then we're good to move forward there as well.
Okay. All right, terrific. Then last is Tom's highlight, which is a motion to adjourn. Oh wait,
Actually,
hold on.
Eric, I got one thing.
Yep.
I go to the South Norwalk Post Office at least once a week. And since COVID, it's gotten much busier than it used to be. It was dropping off. There's free 15-minute spots there. Half the time I can get one, half the time I can't. I usually have a stack of quarters in my car, so I can drop one in the meter. I certainly don't want to use my credit card and pay $1 to go into the post office. Yesterday, all the 15-minute spots were taken up. I pulled into a single space meter spot. I went in. The LAS constable was actually in the post office doing some mailing, and I did not use my credit card. I came out and I had a ticket, and so I'm contesting it. But I think we should look at adding like one extra space on there for the post office. And maybe that could be, you could leave one of the metered spaces there, and it could just be 15-minute parking, until 6 p.m. or something like that for free. But I do see a lot of people double parking and all that. So I think it's something we should look at.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can certainly take a look into it. I think first step would be taking a look at the meters that are currently there now, and what kind of revenue they're generating, and see the
and they were all
turnaround.
Empty. For the most part, all the metered spots are empty along there.
Sure. But again, we also want to be careful. It's certainly a slippery slope when we start to, go down this path.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that we've talked about is kind of looking at the 15-minute spaces as a whole throughout the entire city. So that might be a good time to pull that into kind of that review, whether it's the 15-minute or whether it's 30-minute, just kind of looking at all the free spaces as a whole, and having, inventory them, have an understanding of where they are, how the meters are operating around them. And then that allows us to kind of make some educated changes if changes are needed. If not, maybe it's proven that how we're doing it now is fine. But it's something we can definitely I think, look at once we start that 15-minute space project as a whole.
Yeah, I think that's the thing to do, is to roll it into the larger, overlook of all of them. Because this one happens to be a post office, but not all 15-minute spaces are in front of something like a post office. So, I think that's what we do, is we roll it into the larger discussion.
And I don't know how, well, I know everybody wants to go, but I'm just wondering, I'll look at the ticketing statistics for West Washington there. I just wonder if it's higher because of the post office. I mean, and again, all the metered spots for the most part were empty. So I thought,
There's 3 ways to pay, and I don't know what more we can do, how much easier we can make it. We reduced the minimum time on the app to half an hour, and I believe that was for instances like this where you didn't need a full hour, but I think it does need to roll into the larger discussion of free 15 and free 30-minute spaces throughout the city.
yeah, but I mean, Eric, if you have people going to the post office, and Belden Avenue has, by the way, 30 minutes of free parking in front of it. If some people can get them and some people can't, I don't know, is that fair?
So I think it is, and if I mean, I don't, is it also fair to the only option is for it to be free, and I don't think that's fair either, because
No, I'm not advocating for
there's
free
an
parking on the whole street.
but there's an expense to free, and I think we need to shy away from that. So I think your point is a good one, and I'm only suggesting that it be made part of the overall discussion of where these spaces exist, and the service or lack of service that they may or may not be providing.
Okay,
So I think it's, Judd, great point. So we will take it as a takeaway to do an inventory and analysis of the free parking spaces to see where we stand. And, we should be we should like maybe map these, right? And see where they are, so we could see that and make our decisions based on, what's the best practice. I want to just give realistic timeframes. So we have to get the budget ready for you guys for next month. So James and Laz will be working full-time on the budget until then. So I want to just, like, next month's meeting will probably be solely budget presentation for you. To condition you to be able to feel comfortable to sign the budget or approve the budget. So I don't know that we have the bandwidth to take on additional stuff.
yeah, that's
before
fine.
then. So,
I understand.
okay, wanted to be clear.
And listen, in 20 years, it's the first time I got a ticket there, only because I didn't have any quarters with me. So,
Okay,
okay.
all right.
All right,
I'm done.
awesome. All right, great, thank you. So then motion to adjourn.
That's a good idea. I move we adjourn.
I'll second it.
Second, all in favor? Aye. So,
Aye.
all right, everybody, have a great night.
Have a
Bye,
good
gentlemen.
night.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Thank
everyone.
you, Darlene.
Sorry about the problems getting on tonight. Our apologies.
Yeah, thanks. All right,
All
bye.
right, bye.
Bye.